I was looking for answers a long, long, long time ago, probably in your parents' generation. I'm going to take you back and give you a story about the search I went on when I was around 18. And the idea really was clearly defining my life because I was struggling. And, circumstances happened in my early life, in my late teens, that put me on a quest to find some answers. There's a time in American history that was extraordinarily magical. And I'm taking you back to 1967, 1968, 1969, in relationship to the first beginning of attempting to understand these levels of meditation that Master Patanjali is talking about. Dhyana and dharana and samadhi. These are levels of focus, single-pointed focus on a powerful object. And who knew about that? What are we talking, 60 years ago? No, 55 years ago. So I was living in the New York area of the U.S., New York City area of the U.S., and I, as most of my generation, there was a renaissance of music, a massive explosion of music. And Geshe Michael talks about the time in the DCI system. He calls it the hippie era. And he uses the metaphor of the hippie era with the mind-only school of our traditions, which is fascinating because it's quite real in that context. And we were just in love with the music as a generation, as you probably are with your music. It doesn't change. But there was a group that is still quite legendary in the history of music called the Beatles. And the Beatles were the most innovative, or one of the most innovative groups. There were others, but they seemed to capture this period of time in the world. It wasn't just in the West. It went around the world, and their music was the first truly global pop rock and roll band of my time. And not only were they great musicians and innovators of radical changes in music styles, but they were very much involved with wanting to know a little bit more about themselves. And they went to India in 1968. And because of their popularity, we would get the news feed about being in the northeast section of India studying meditation. And the meditation was not exactly mainstream at all. It was beginning to bubble up in our culture. And they suddenly put this great teacher in the limelight. His name is Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. And he suddenly became a celebrity because of his affiliation with the Beatles. And so we were all enthralled, this group of new generation 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds. People started going to India looking for spiritual teachers. There was a massive amount of travel going on at that time. Slowly, India became the motherland to look for a teacher. And I was too young to really travel. I mean, I was 18. People were traveling, but a year later, I saw a flyer on a bulletin board for the Maharishi Mahesh Yogi coming to New York City, which was 28 miles from where I was living. And I grabbed my sister and one of her kids, and I said, "Get in the car, we're going." And we went to the location in New York. I'll never forget it. It was West 57th Street. We listened to 4 lectures by his students. And it was quite a very interesting kind of high language spiritual lectures. And they asked if any of us would be interested in having a one-on-one with Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, and I said yes, and I signed up. And it was pretty interesting. I was given this address to go, and at a certain time on a Saturday afternoon in a very upscale part of New York City called Park Avenue. And apparently one of his sponsors owned a 5-story brownstone house in New York City. And they gave me instructions about what to wear, and I had to bring flowers and maybe another offering. And it was all new to me, but I just kind of had to do this. And I also didn't know if I should tell anybody. It was one of these things where they'll think I'm weird. And, if I pull back these memories, it was quite an amazing moment. You're talking waiting, getting ready. They said I could ask 1 or 2 questions. And then I was brought into a room, and he was on a throne, and he welcomed me. He gave me some basic instruction, and then he gave me a mantra, which was a monosyllable, one monosyllable of Sanskrit. And he began to give me instructions how to sit. He gave me instructions about recitation of the mantra. And then he told me to close my eyes, and he sang the mantra with me. And there was a radical moment of a shift in my mind. I don't want to get into the details, but there was a radical shift in my mind, and there was something extraordinary behind the process that resulted in this first experience of meditation. And then he told me to open my eyes, and he giggled. He was giggling at me. And he said, "Now you practice every single morning and every single night for no less than 20 minutes." And it was quite extraordinary, actually. The result of something ripening within that first experience was like the expression of carrot chasing. It was an incentive for me to move into a practice, and I began to do this religiously for about 1.5 years. I never saw him again. He gave me a taste, and he planted seeds for me to get on a path, really. And to this day, the Maharishi University in the U.S. is one of the most successful academic universities to offer various trainings in not only meditation but many other things. But that put me on the path, you see, and that put me on this idea, of what we're talking about in Master Patanjali. The 6th limb, especially, right? This idea of dhyana, how to keep focused on an object. What are the components that you need to explore to sustain a lasting single-pointed concentration on the object of your practice, of your meditation? So this beginning was just amazing. I started reading a lot of material. There were many very important releases of English translations of great masters from India happening at the same time in the late 60s. And then my friends from university, we reunited in the summer of 1970. And my friend gave me an amazing book. He said, read it. It's just totally made for you. And it was called The Three Pillars of Zen. And quite frankly, this was not in America. There was no Japanese traditions of Zen meditation. There was a few Hindu systems of meditation, but nothing in any way whatsoever to where we've come now. I mean, the only true technology was the telephone. There wasn't anything else. There was a telephone and mail. So word of mouth or countercultural newspapers started to release many of the spiritual activities that invaded America in the 60s, into the 70s, into the 80s. And there was, again, a massive movement toward searching out for answers. And it hasn't stopped, but this was a turning point for mostly America and Europe at the beginning, where these teachers started coming to America. And that includes great yogis that we know of that really brought American yoga to what it is now. And so I devoured the book, and it was this opening, like an opening of a curtain about the Japanese tradition of Zen Buddhism, Zen meditation. And it was a manual to learn how to keep focused on an object. You're talking now about dhyana and the beginning of these levels, right? These levels of meditation that lead you to samadhi. They weren't using the traditional, definitions that we're talking about in Patanjali. These were coming in from China into Japan around 950 AD, 850 AD, Tang Dynasty time. And so after reading this beautiful book, on the back cover, which I didn't read until maybe 2 or 3 months later, I realized that this Roshi, this 20-year trained first American Roshi, which is the master of Zen meditation, was 35 miles away from where I lived. I had no idea. And he was, again, it's interesting. He was he owned an advertising company in New York City in his 20s and 30s, and then dropped away, went to Japan for 20 years, and came back as a Roshi, as a teacher. And he knew how to bring this system of Zen meditation into our culture. He knew our culture. And so I went to see them in their they had a beautiful 3-story mansion that was given to them in a city in America called Rochester, New York. And Rochester, New York was the capital for 2 major companies, Xerox Corporation, who were the pioneers of copy machines in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. They're still a very popular company. The owner and founder of Xerox sponsored this Roshi and bought him a retreat center in the country, and then bought him a place in Rochester, New York, so he could train students who wanted to learn Zen meditation. And again, I was, at the time, I was 20, so I was just, hungry for more. And I would go on the weekends. He would have 3-day intensive practices, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And there would be about 45 people. and we would sit together in 50-minute sits 6 times a day, meditation systems. And I learned how to do what we call zazen, or Zen meditation. And I spent 3 years with this great American master. So you see, the beginning of my practice was foundational in the sense of a habit. I made this stubborn, insistent habit of getting up every day and doing a meditation, maybe 2 days. I'm sorry, twice a day, depending on my schedule and my life. But no doubt, it was the building block for me to to uh, explore the mind in a way that that was accessible. You know, if we talk about seeds, I did have these early on seeds to search out a teacher, and we need teachers. We need to explore searching for that teacher. We can do it with a book, but inevitably it will only bring you to a certain place. You will hit this, what we call a glass ceiling. You need somebody to take this away so you can really get to samadhi, right? Shamatha, the idea of sustaining for long periods of time a very powerful karmic object to be focused on. And how the mind is focused on that object is a big subject in these chapters of Master Patanjali, chapters 6 and 7. And these ideas are very important to intellectually understand, but then the direct experience in the meditation process is the key. You need both, and that's the magic sauce. This is the magic sauce that brings the mind to a much more awareing state. And there's so much to tell you in this beautiful path that all of you are on. All of you are on a path. You have to admit it to yourself. You're looking. There's a point in our life where we have that opportunity to search out something bigger than we are. And I think most of us on this call are on that path. And the beauty of, for the first time in my life, the beauty of sitting in meditation with 40 or 50 people was powerful. The energy collectively helped you stay focused. And that's where I found yoga as well, because you need to take care of these needs for long standing, processes of sustaining a healthy body. Yoga was a part of my life in the 70s. The first phase of yoga, when it entered America, was a part of my life. I was doing yoga in 1972. And a big part of the sustainability of a long-term meditation practice is taking care of these beautiful knees and keeping your body open. And yoga is the perfect combination for that process. So that began something special for me. Okay, so flash forward to around 1979 when I moved to New York, and for the second time, and started a career. I found another great Japanese master and spent 12 years with him in New York City, and did many meditation retreats. And the accumulation of that practice, by the way, also creates the seeds, creates the beautiful karmas that open the door to other teachers. the merit you're creating in the production of a regular practice of meditation, no matter how you judge your practice, you're planting extraordinary seeds to actually enter the potential of not having one teacher, but maybe many teachers. And so that evolution hit again a place in my heart, and it it presented to me a great teacher. His name is Geshe Tarchin, Ken Rinpoche, his nickname. This is Geshe Michael's teacher. Geshe Michael Roach's root teacher was presented to me, and that was again one of the most extraordinary turning points of my practice and my spiritual curiosity, I guess. And that was in 1996, and I was very enthralled at the time with the idea of this other tradition of practice. And you know, as we know, Geshe Michael now is teaching almost every month something in the world. And I don't know. There's an expression in America. I'm so lucky. I pinch myself to make sure that this is real because of my good fortune to be able to be in the presence of these incredible teachers. So Ken Rinpoche he was 81 when I knew him, and he was just amazing. And I would be in his presence, which then brought me to Geshe Michael's New York community. And I would get instruction from Ken Rinpoche, and I would have these, I call them eureka moments, moments of awareness that were extraordinary. And I would run out to where he was and say, this happened to me. It was so amazing. And he would look at me, and then he would say, samsara, drop it, forget it. He was so cool. He saw that my mind was getting attached to these experiences in meditation, and he just would go, boom, don't go. He would get angry, pretend to be angry. And he made it a point to realize that we can get stuck in places in our meditation. He made it a point to make me realize that our minds want to collect experiences on the cushion. And they may be a very sweet, valid expression of an awareness that we attain through this practice of meditation and focus on the object. But our minds want to own it and get attached to it, you see. And he would just say, get out, samsara. and it was the best thing I could ever have, because we all think, oh, this was so cool. I had this, deep experience. And he kept you right on the path, you see. He said, that's nothing. And so, this is an incredible, wonderful path I've been on for all these years. And it doesn't stop, you see. It will enter different phases of your spiritual career, your meditation career over the next, I would say you're probably in your mid-30s. Over the next 30 years, your adventure has just begun in a way. And so the idea of this beautiful combination of focus on the object that you're practicing with, which will change. The object you're practicing with will change as you evolve into the practice of focus and meditation. So always remember, there's not there isn't an end to this until you realize the depth of the potential of samadhi, the ultimate goal of single pointed concentration on an object undisturbed, right? The extremes fall away. And then you're in this extraordinary sweet spot for several minutes. And many things have been written about it, but to experience it is completely a different dimension of awareness. And you're going to be entering, these chapters, I guess, starting on the 17th, all the way to the 28th of January. And you need to kind of consider joining Geshe Michael Roach and the Yoga Studies Institute's, Patanjali Sutra Course 3. It's an astounding potential of understanding the depths of consciousness and how you are on this path to begin the exploration of the mind. So I welcome you to the possibility of more is better. In my day, we used to say less is more. Minimize your life. Don't collect things. Keep your mind clear and empty of worry. Go very empty in your life and stay focused. But in this case, more is better. Get these teachings, learn these chapters, and see where it takes you. Thank you.